Welcome back. The next big question is, has this election been a referendum on the Narendra Modi government? What lies ahead for the centre is the big question that I want to now pose at this moment. Pawan Verma is still with us, but before I come to you, Pawan, John Elliott is with us. And John, you've tracked the Indian economy closely. You've tracked Mr. Modi also. Do you believe that this election verdict will send shivers down the spine of the world? Will they see Mr. Modi now as a weaker prime minister and therefore be a little worried that reform will actually get a further setback?
I think they'll be puzzled. They'll be puzzled partly because of the Lalu emerging again on the political scene, which you've just been discussing. I mean, if I lived abroad, I'd say, well, why wasn't he banned from politics altogether? So they'll be puzzled by that, but they won't know enough about Bihar to go any further. So they'll turn to Narendra Modi and see this as a verdict on him, yes.
They will see it as a verdict on Mr. Modi.
Absolutely.
The world will see this as a verdict on Mr. Modi.
I believe so.
I'm joined by two special guests. Mr. Chidambaram, the former finance minister, is with me. I'm coming to you, Mr. Chidambaram, in just a minute because Pawan Verma has been with us for a while and I just want to get Mr. Verma on that. Do you see this, Mr. Verma, in a short answer, as a referendum on the government which gives you, in a sense now, empowers you in the parliament session to gherao the government?
First of all, I want to clarify one thing, Rajdeep. The opposition does not wish to gherao the government, but the opposition wants the government to get their act together and reach out to the opposition and come to a consensus on many issues. They just don't take the initiative. Secondly, I believe the world is worried not because Mr. Modi is perceived to be weaker, but because when he was stronger, he was not doing enough for the economy.
That's an interesting way to put it. That's an and that's the opportunity cost. I think Veer spoke about it very well, that the first year particularly was the year, where you can, yes, quick response, Sambit, quick response. You missed an opportunity.
Yes, Rajdeep, in fact, some people taking this opportunity to malign the image of Narendra Modi, let me remind them of the fact that the last 25 days, in fact, 10 important measures have been released by various international agencies, which only points to the fact that image of Mr. Modi has been bolstered. The Forbes saying that Mr. Modi is the 9th most adorable personality in the world.
Adorable. Secondly, not adorable, powerful. And it's a list headed by Putin. I don't know how many people in the world want to be in a list headed by Putin. That's another, that's a debate for another day.
Just a second, but day before yesterday, the data that India has become, India has won over corruption to an extent that it is below China now, and this happens after 18 years. Definitely it has a projection of Mr. Modi internationally.
I take your point.
Thirdly, that India's competitiveness in ease of doing business has gone up by 12 points. All these points to the fact that India is doing well, and this is recognized internationally.
Okay.
So Mr. Modi's image taking a beating in the international front is absolutely a cook-up by the opposition.
It's not opposition, it's John Elliott who said it. I don't think John Elliott belongs to the opposition, but that's another word. I want to go to Mr. Chidambaram.
I did not want
just
to
a minute.
John Elliott
okay, I want to go to Mr. Chidambaram.
Do I have your permission to leave?
Yes, you have my permission. I appreciate it. You have my permission to leave, and congratulations, and please congratulate your leader as well. I want to come to Mr. P. Chidambaram, former finance minister who now joins us. Mr. Chidambaram, how do you see this victory? Do you see this as some are seeing it as a revival of the Congress, a resurgence of the opposition anti-Modi forces? Or am I exaggerating it that this is an arithmetical victory where effectively by just combining the anti-Modi forces, you've done so much better than in 2014. So it's not about any referendum on Mr. Modi or a decline in Mr. Modi's support. It's just that the opposition got their act together.
In a winner past the post-election, as we have in India, like in the UK, is always arithmetical. Whoever gets more votes. I think you guys invented the expression index of opposition unity.
Dr. Prannoy Roy did.
Opposition
Dr.
unites.
Prannoy Roy
What's
did.
wrong with that?
I'll give him credit, yes.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. I think the Congress took a wise, practical decision given the context of the Bihar elections, given the relative strengths of the parties there. The Congress took a wise and practical decision. I think the Congress played an important role in bringing Mr. Nitish Kumar and Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav together, and the Congress was part of that alliance, and the strategy paid off. So I think we are happy.
Yes.
And all those who disagree with the BJP's model of governance must be happy.
The reason I'm asking you, therefore, is this limited to Bihar? Because your home state of Tamil Nadu goes to election next year. Now, can you stitch a grand alliance, and who will you stitch it with? Because the BJP is not the #1 party. So you can't stitch an anti-Modi alliance in Tamil Nadu. There are other states, for example, Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee is leader #1. What are the Congress's options there? Again, limited. So I'm just wondering whether this was a very Bihar-specific situation that you found yourself in. We cannot extrapolate anything from this election beyond Bihar to suggest it's a referendum on the way Narendra Modi has run the country for the last 18 months.
Well, there are two different questions in that question, and I'll deal with them separately. Firstly, every state election is contextual and state-specific. The parties are different. The key players are different. The social support base is different. The point I'm driving at is, in every state election, taking the context into account and the key players into account, the Congress must devise a practical strategy. It will be different for Kerala and for Bengal and for Assam. Next year, we go to elections in 5 states. Kerala, Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Obviously, the final arithmetic or the final decision will depend upon the context. But the common thread that runs through all these elections will be the Congress has to be flexible, practical, and keeping the context in mind, stitch alliances.
But I want us
Obviously, it will be different from state to state.
So therefore,
Now, the other part of your question
yes,
is
the referendum.
very
Is this a
different
referendum?
question. Referendum. Was it a referendum on the Modi government? Now, it may not be a referendum on the government because it's too early to call a referendum on Mr. Modi's government, but it certainly is a strong rebuke to Mr. Modi and his style of governance. The people simply do not accept what he has been saying for the last 18 months.
Can I just take this with my studio guests and try and understand what you're saying? Do you agree with what Mr. Chidambaram is saying, that it's a rebuke to Mr. Modi, if not a referendum, Raj?
I agree. I think we've, even our own Mood of the Nation polls showed last time, in just about 2-3 months, that there was a disillusionment growing about the government. Not Mr. Modi personally, but Team Modi itself. This, in a sense, pushes him now. Either he has to deliver on what he's been speaking. There's a certain tiredness of what he said, and you saw that during the election campaign. He was repeating himself considerably. He's losing that magic.
He's got to walk the talk.
He's got to walk the talk. And he has to deliver in this next couple of years before he can regain some of that.
Veer, you're hearing what Mr. Chidambaram is saying.
Yeah.
Saying it's a rebuke, not a referendum.
I think that's fair. That's a fair distinction.
Is that a way to distinguish this?
I think so. I think a referendum is much too broad a category. Even his State of the Nation poll, as Raj referred to, will indicate that Modi is still the most popular leader in this country. If an election were to be held tomorrow, I imagine the BJP will still be the single largest party in the Lok Sabha. So let's not get carried away with the results of this election. But let's also accept that Modi tried the traditional Modi approach, which is he went in over there, he said, I will do this for you, I will do that for you, use the Modi magic, and the people said, goodbye, we don't believe you, we don't trust you.
John, why are you saying, before I go back to Mr. Chidambaram, why are you saying that the international community is worried about this? Don't they understand, as Mr. Chidambaram is accepting that this is an election in a particular context, fought in Bihar? Why make large, are they worried, for example, that the reform agenda will be derailed? Why should the reform agenda be derailed by one election defeat? If anything, this is an opportunity for Mr. Modi in the next 3 months to say, I'm pushing ahead, I'm only going to focus on the economy. Everything else doesn't matter, it's the economy is stupid.
But they might also hope that the reform agenda would be put on the rails, because it's not on the rails at the moment, so how can it be derailed? The reforms that are supposed to be going through Parliament have got stuck. But what Narendra Modi has not done, I think foreigners will want 2 things. I think first of all they wanted to see that he is a Prime Minister who's in charge, and that will mean restraining the extremist people who've been speaking on all sorts of unruly ways in the last few months. But also they'll want to see him delivering. I mean, look at the things that haven't been delivered. The Rafale deal that he went to France to earlier in the year and suddenly decided to buy 36 jets is still derailed. Nothing has happened. He hasn't done the billions of dollars of things that he signed up on all these visits. Hardly anything has come through. I think what he needs to do is to show that he is in charge and he can deliver. And I
Let me
think the
therefore
rest-
ask, let me ask that to Mr. Chidambaram. Mr. Chidambaram, if you had to give one piece of advice to Prime Minister Modi, what would that be, particularly in the context of the economy? Would, for the example, the Congress be willing to reach out and support him on GST, goods and services tax? The deadline is running out. April 1, 2016 now looks increasingly unlikely.
Course correction. He has a very small window between now and the next session of Parliament, 2 to 3 weeks. Question is, and please read my column this morning, which is the way in which Mr. Modi will go? The BJP has been soundly defeated in Bihar. Now he could, after losing the election, choose one of two paths. He could either pause, take stock, pull back and say, all right, we'll steer the party on the path of development and governance and eschew all issues. Or he could come under pressure, his own pressure or his friends' pressure, and say, listen, we perhaps did a half-hearted Hindutva campaign, let's go the whole hog. Let's revive all the core issues of Hindutva. Ram Temple, repeal of Article 370, Uniform Civil Code, rewrite history books.
There's no
rewrite
evidence he will do.
textbooks. He could do that.
There's no evidence that he wants to go
There is no evidence that he will. There is no evidence, Rajdeep.
Yes.
Let me answer that. There
Yes.
is no evidence
Yes.
which way the cat will jump.
Well,
There is
if-
no evidence so far.
No, if
He has not
anything, the
spoken
Bihar
after the
elections.
Bihar elections.
No, if anything, the Bihar election should be an opportunity, as I said, for you call it course correction, I'll say press the reset button and maybe reach out to the opposition. The question is the opposition willing to reach out to Mr. Modi? Because there is a section within the opposition that has decided, it appears, including the Congress,
onus-
that we have to ensure that Mr. Modi in some way either self-destructs or we don't allow him to function. That we've not accepted him as the Prime
That's
Minister.
not correct. That's an unfair comment. That's an unfair comment. Just go back and look at the legislation that has been passed so far. Every piece of legislation that has been passed has been done with the support of the Congress. Where we oppose legislation, we are doing it for sound reasons. Take the GST bill.
Yes.
The Congress party has listed 7 objections. I even offered that we could limit it to 3 main objections. But the BJP has been completely dismissive. Contrast this with the BJP's opposition when I pleaded with Mr. Jaitley and Ms. Swaraj to support the GST bill. They said, sorry, we have no appetite for passing any bills. They did not have a single reason, logical reason why they were opposing the bill. So I think it's unfair to say that the Congress is obstructionist. Every single bill passed in Parliament in the last 18 months has been passed with Congress support.
Surjit?
You know,
I'll tell you, I'll prelude, Surjit Bhalla is worried about the markets tomorrow, Mr. Chidambaram.
No.
As you would have been if you were the finance minister, possibly worried about how the markets will
Yeah.
react. But go ahead, Surjit.
no, I think
You have a
the
question for Mr.
The truth
Chidambaram?
the truth is somewhere in between, at least in my interpretation of the
Yes.
truth. The Congress has clearly been intransigent and basically playing the bad game. At the same time, I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that whether you call it flow management, whether you call it getting people together, the BJP has played a bad game. They have been too arrogant for whatever the reason is. They haven't reached out. So I think both sides have been at fault. Now, unfortunately for BJP, unfortunately for Narendra Modi, there is the legacy of the BJP obstructing everything in the path over the last few years. Matter of fact, I think the BJP did 2 things wrong. They allowed bills to be passed that should not have been passed, and they obstructed bills that should have been passed, like the GST.
Okay.
So I think
I take your point. I take your point. Quick word, Ashok, before I get a final word from Mr. Chidambaram.
Frankly, I'm not very optimistic of Parliament functioning in the winter session and of Mr. Modi actually being able to get a lot of bills through.
You don't think Parliament will function? You think the opposition has sent its blood today?
See,
You heard what Rahul Gandhi said. The way
you
Rahul
see,
Gandhi spoke today seems he sent it blood.
In the monsoon session, the Congress played a filibuster, resorted to filibustering. It actually was isolated till the government bailed it out by suspending its MPs. Politically speaking, as crude as this may sound, the Congress's strategy would seem to be validated by the Bihar results. And now other parties will join it. I expect. Whatever Mr. Modi has to do, and he certainly needs to do a lot of course correction, he needs to now do it but through executive decisions.
You know, the fact is
also
that
that he must sue for peace now. Because if you look at the loss of Bihar, means the BJP getting a majority in the Rajya Sabha is now...
Is not
even
going to happen in
more-
2019.
Yeah,
Yes.
everything that's happening.
Let's agree.
I
So
think the
therefore-
suing for peace can happen after he's done a few things and regain some political capital, and possibly next year. I think the winter session is gone.
Yes, Veer.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that Mr. Modi has this Olympian view of himself. He has complete contempt for local BJP state units. He refused to take them seriously, as we see in Bihar, as we've seen in Delhi before that, where he overruled Harshvardhan, imposed somebody else. And we've seen that in his dealings with the opposition. He doesn't call the Congress to discuss foreign policy. He's not even willing to discuss their suggestions on bills, as Mr. Chidambaram said. His whole attitude is the people of India have elected me, they love me, who are you?
Okay,
Well, guess what? He's going to have to change that attitude if anything's going to get through.
I'm going to go to Manoj Jha of the RJD, who will join me in a moment, but I want to just get a final word from you, Mr. Chidambaram. As I said, you know, even if the Prime Minister wants to reach out to the Congress and sue for peace after this, is the Congress really willing? You didn't answer my question. Is there a section within the party which believes that Mr. Modi has to be ghered out at all costs, because that is the only way that you will undermine him? There is a section of your party which has not fully accepted Mr. Modi as the Prime Minister, not accepted fully the defeat of 2014.
This is only in your imagination. There is no section of the party which prevails upon the party to be obstructionist. The party has sensible leadership, and they take sensible decisions given the circumstances. Now tell me, in the last 18 months, how many times has Prime Minister Modi invited former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh or visited former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to discuss issues of state? I can speak from personal experience. Not once has he invited or gone over to speak to the former Prime Minister how we should handle a matter. Look at our neighborhood policy in a shambles. Nepal, Pakistan, Maldives. How many times has he gone across and spoken to anyone? The problem with the BJP government is it looks upon the opposition with contempt. It's a black and white world for them.
Okay, we're going to...
Everything that the Congress stands for is black.
Okay, we're going to leave it there, and
Therefore, there's no point blaming the Congress.
yes, that's your view.
There's no point blaming the Congress. The onus on governance is with the ruling party, and therefore the ruling party must reach out to Congress and the Congress's leadership.
Okay, on that note, Mr. Chidambaram, I appreciate your joining us and giving us where you believe the Prime Minister must reach out to you after this defeat that the government has suffered in this election. But thank you very much for joining us there from Chennai. I'm going to go to Manoj Jha. Manoj, you're looking completely... First of all, congratulations, my friend. My old friend, you're looking completely like a... what are you wearing? It appears that it's extremely cold wherever you are. I presume you're in Patna. And I can see from the glint in your eyes that with this kind...
Rajdeep,
Yes, where are you? You're not well?
I'm having fever and sore throat, cough, everything. I mean, that's the long campaign. Finally, it has resulted.
But I
in
thought
a high
Lalu was
on a
campaigning.
very
You were only
positive
coming
note.
to TV set. You should not feel. Lalu should have fever. You should be. Today's your day to celebrate.
I tell you, none of my age or even younger than me, they can match up to his level of enthusiasm, his level of energy level. I mean, that's unmatched. I can't even think of matching that.
Okay, if I were to give, we've been trying to understand the Lalu phenomenon for the last hour, for most of it. What is the one reason why you believe your leader is back? What is the secret of this comeback? He's the comeback kid of this election.
One reason which I must tell you, you had written a piece, Rajesh Khanna and Avatar Phenomena. I read that. But most importantly, Rajdeep, 5 years ago, and I have told you earlier in a private conversation, you almost all of you, Swapan and all of you, were writing political obituary of Mr. Lalu Yadav. And
No, please don't link it. No, Swapan may have. Don't put me with Swapan in this category. It's very unfair. Swapan may have written of Lalu. I have never written of Lalu. I have never written him off.
Yeah, I'm telling you, what people have missed the narrative of this election. This evolved right from the day when CCC data was released. Laluji was the first one to press for he said that the faceless data is of no use. He said, I wish to establish who is the homeless and what is his background, who is shelterless, what is his background, who is landless, what is his background. And then Mr. Bhagwat happened. Then you had Mr. Golwalkar's book, and verbatim what Mr. Bhagwat said, it is verbatim without colon, semicolon, no change. The same what was said by Mr. Golwalkar. That resonated with the people of Bihar. I tell you, the Dalits and the
Has
backwards.
Lalu changed?
I have told you here in Patna, Rajdeep, in 20 years I have never seen such mobilization.
No, but has Lalu changed himself? There have been various comings of Lalu, and some have been not so edifying. Some have been rather ugly over the years. Has Laluji changed? He is, at the end of the day, someone who's been convicted in a case. He is someone who many believe was responsible for a dark decade of Bihar when it came to criminalization. Yes, he provided a voice to the voiceless, and it's a remarkable achievement. But do you believe that Lalu Prasad has changed in terms of governance? Will he change? Will he ring up a daroga and ask him to be shifted out?
Two things first, Rajdeep. I think media and a large number of people, particularly from Delhi, they have not been fair to Laluji. We have been maintaining that please provide us marks in all the papers Laluji appeared. What people do, they just take out 2-3 issues and then in fact they magnify it at the level of Jungle Raj and all. I mean, I have said this enough. Number one, you also have watched his tenure as railway minister. Can you complain about his ministry? Can you deny that there was a massive turnaround in the Indian Railways? Now, everything changes. Life itself is dynamic. Laluji has also evolved. He understands, and I tell you the kind of support he has got from the Dalits, from the backwards, from the poor. I tell you,
so you are giving me a guarantee that he will not do what he did in his previous terms, which was try and get officers who were transferred, inconvenient officers shunted out. None of that will take place.
Rajdeep, most of those issues are part of the myth which were thrown in the muddy waters here.
There is no myth. There is no myth. There is no myth. Let us not make Lalu also out to be some cuddly little creature. You know, let's be very clear that Lalu Prasad also in the 1990s, I have met police officers.
Let me ask you, Rajdeep. Let me ask you.
Yes.
Rajdeep,
yes.
Rajdeep, all of us talk about Jungle Raj. And I have said this earlier.
I didn't say Jungle Raj. I didn't use the word Jungle Raj.
Audacity? No. I mean, sum total of what you are saying attribution is Jungle Raj. Now, Mr. Prime Minister was called by 2 sitting judges of Supreme Court as Mr. Nero after Gujarat. Do we discuss that? Do we have the audacity to bring that in the public domain? Why are we selectively targeting people? We admit we might have committed
Manoj Jha, you should not ask me this question. I have been targeted for allegedly selectively targeting the Prime Minister. Now you are turning around and saying, why am I selectively targeting Lalu? I know how many people will I selectively target?
When I say you, I don't mean you.
Okay, good. When you say you, you don't mean me. I'm glad.
When I say you, I don't mean you.
The interesting point.
Yes, Raj.
No, the interesting point is that while we are looking at whether Lalu would change, the question also comes to Mr. Modi. Will he change? Which is what everyone wants him to do. He has adopted a gradualism approach, as John was saying, in terms of the economy. He has centralized a lot of the decision making. He has tremendous energy, there's no doubt about it. He ran Gujarat well, but do you run a country of this size? He needs a mission approach.
So he needs to change. He also needs to press the reset button.
Absolutely. He might want to have better cabinet colleagues.
Exactly.
He needs people to be put in charge of programs that he's launched and still withering. The bureaucracy hasn't delivered. And he's caught in this paralysis of state election after state election, hoping that he'd win handsomely and then he can bring the reform.
And maybe therefore that's one of the lessons. I'll come to Ashok in a moment. Let me take a break for the 9 o'clock headlines, because we're going to ask that question. Has the Prime Minister invested too much of capital in contesting or campaigning 24/7, 365 days of the year? Remember, on Diwali night, while you and I are bursting crackers, Prime Minister is flying to Wembley, to London. Does he need to now press the reset button and maybe just focus on the humdrum of governance? And I use the word humdrum deliberately because that's the way governance is done sometimes in this country. Work with the bureaucracy, find other ways in which to get the country back on rails. Let's take a break. Manoj Jha, if you can stay with us, I know you are the most in demand because you hop from studio to studio. But if you stay with us, it'll be great.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise,
Thank you so much, Rajdeep.
either way, I want to congratulate you and please congratulate your boss. Today he is back. He is the Rajesh Khanna and he's produced Avatar. I told you one super hit is always there in a big hero. Avatar is his hit for the moment. That film in 1983, which was a golden jubilee. Back in a moment. Don't go away, Surjit, because I have to give you a special gift, pre-Diwali gift. Wait for that. Back in a moment. In this final segment, my panel still with us. They've been with us right since the morning. Raj Chengappa, Editorial Director of India Today. Manisha Priyam, Senior Political Academic, also with us. Dr. Surjit Bhalla, who is in many ways also the man of the match because he stuck his neck out and predicted 175. That's what happened when you're brave and foolish. Ashok Malik, still with us, senior journalist. Ajit Jha, Veer Sangvi, and our National Affairs Editor, Javed Ansari, all with us at the moment to take us through this final segment to understand the implications of this big day in Indian politics. But I want to first go to Sachin Pilot at the moment, the Congress leader joining me. The Congress is coming out. I don't see the big BJP leaders coming out. The Congress leaders are all coming out. The Arun Jaitlys and all haven't surfaced today, but Sachin Pilot has. Sachin Pilot, you can smile today because the Congress has not had much to smile about in the last 18 months. But the question that I keep asking congressmen, are you all reconciled to the fact that at least in the Hindi heartland, in UP and Bihar, you will now have to play the role of the junior partner, whether it's in Bihar today or in UP maybe in 2017, if you are to continue to have some success?
Rajdeep, I don't want to overstate the importance that the Congress party may or may not have played in the Bihar Mahagathbandhan, but the fact that Nitish ji and Lalu ji were brought together and this formidable alliance was formed, I think some credit is due to the Congress party for having done that. And don't forget, just as an aside, the Congress party had 4 MLAs 5 years ago in Bihar. Today our tally is up 7 times. So I think we've done reasonably well for a party that has not been performing well in Bihar. I think the implications of these elections are yet to be even seen and imagined, because the invincibility of the BJP has been completely shattered. It will have implication in Assam and more importantly in Bihar. The fact that people have now realized that the rabid voices coming out from the ruling dispensation are not acceptable. They talked about everything from beef to reservation to crackers being burnt in Pakistan. Every attempt was made. In fact, so much of political investment went into the Bihar elections that the stakes became so high because of the BJP and the ruling government. This could have been just another election, but they really put everything into it, and now what has happened is what happened in Delhi. So whether Arvind Kejriwal wins in Delhi or Nitish Kumar in Bihar, it is the BJP that's losing so quickly after getting a massive mandate. It's unimaginable how in 15 months a ruling government with full majority can become so unwanted in such a short time. I think the BJP has to do some introspection as to how to quench these voices in their ruling government.
It seems almost as if the Congress believes that the BJP is being wiped out of the states of the map of the country, and that's not necessarily true, because even in the context of being the single largest party in terms of vote share, the BJP remains that, not in terms of seats, but in terms of vote share. That's of course because they contested also more seats. But clearly the fact is the BJP can't be written off maybe Sachin Pilot as easily. Having said that, Chandan Mitra, who joins us, journalist turned politician and member of parliament from the BJP, what is this introspection that the BJP will do? Will it involve accountability? Will Amit Shah be held accountable? Forget the Prime Minister for a moment. Amit Shah was your chief strategist. Now in most Western democracies, the general takes the rap. Who's going to take the rap today in the BJP for what has been a debacle?
Well, did Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi ever take the rap for Congress's successive defeats?
So, but you are a party with a difference.
They are 44.
You are a party with a difference. You are a party with a difference.
We are going to internally discuss and strategize, and obviously things have gone wrong. People will be asked why it went wrong. But we don't believe in just off with their head policy. Just because somebody has lost one election,
he's lost 2.
Get rid of him.
He's lost 2 now. He's lost 2 big elections. Why? He's lost 2 big elections.
Delhi was long ago. But he also won Maharashtra, also won Haryana, and
Well, Delhi was even earlier than that.
No,
so
sir.
how can you draw Delhi?
No, you got my, sir, Chandan, 2014, he could walk on water. Both Amit Shah and Narendra Modi were India's Jodi number 1. This is 2015. In 2015 February, you suffer a big defeat in Delhi. You say it's a local election, people accept it. It's a, it's a small, virtually city state. But now it's Bihar. And this is a big state where you actually led in 172 segments in May of 2014. You're down to 58.
But you had Haryana in between. Haryana was
Haryana was October last year.
Sachin Pilot was talking about just October last year, and this is now just a year later.
A year is a long time in politics, Chandan.
You can jump to these kind of conclusions.
No, are you going to concede that Amit Shah's brand of politics has taken a beating? Why not concede that Amit Shah is not a magician? He's not invincible.
Why? Amit Shah, I'm sorry, Rajdeep. In our party, no single individual takes decisions. Decisions are taken collectively, and therefore responsibility is collective.
You're sounding like the Congress party. You're sounding like the Congress party. The Congress party also says never blame Sonia and Rahul. We are CWC takes decisions.
When they lose,
so if nobody is going to take responsibility, why must you hold up the BJP? And BJP, I mean, after all, lives and functions in the current political scenario in India. Okay. And Mr. Amit Shah cannot be held responsible for victory or defeat.
Okay, then who is held? Okay, Surjit Bhalla is preempting me. Who is to be held? Is there an individual? No individual.
No individual can be held.
No individual can be held. Okay, so Sachin Pilot, you've got your answer, and I'll then bring my panel in on this. That in Western democracies, Labour Party loses, the leader resigns. In India, no one resigns, no one offers to resign also today. I haven't heard anyone even whisper an offer to resignation. But even in the Congress party today, all I am seeing is this, there's a lot of aggression, muscular aggression. You heard Rahul Gandhi suggesting as if this government has done nothing. Now that's also a bit of an exaggeration. It's almost as if this election is a referendum on Mr. Modi's government. Was this really a referendum on Mr. Modi, or was this a Bihar election?
Yes. How can you say, Rajdeep, there was no BJP government in Bihar. Clearly there was a pro-incumbency wave for Nitish Kumar, but it was the government of India, 36 ministers and the Prime Minister himself, 26 rallies in Bihar. 30 it was an election for the BJP of Delhi. And also one point, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi offered to resign after we lost the Lok Sabha elections. The Congress party rejected that offer and said we must work together. I dare say that Mr. Amit Shah makes that offer to the BJP. In fact, some might even accept it in the BJP, and that's the problem for them. But having said that, it's not about resignation, it's about introspection. Look at the noise that came out of the Bihar elections. It was all about divisive politics. The level of debate became so low, unfortunately, and that's reflecting poorly on a government that has got 282 MPs in Lok Sabha. Why must they not think about that? Forget about who's resigning, who's not.
No,
the BJP's agenda has been rejected. That's far more important and crucial.
There's the agenda question, there's the resignation question. Is there a question of resignation at all?
No, I don't think
Do Indian politicians resign after defeats?
No, not in this case. He's the Prime Minister.
All right? No, I forget one more. I've not mentioned Narendra Modi. I'm mentioning Amit Shah, BJP president. His term, in a sense, comes up for renewal in January.
To be fair,
yes, Ashok.
He's won a... Let's also, just to complete two thoughts in this one. They won in the past, 3 or 4 state elections quite handsomely in Haryana, for instance. So to take 1 or 2 elections, particularly a small election like Delhi and then Bihar, I think there's a lot of time for introspection. Second, I think the Prime Minister bet too much on Bihar. Maybe he thought strategically or tactically that he must finish Nitish before he becomes a challenger in 2019.
Is it a personal thing, important thing?
Yes.
Did he make it personal with Nitish Kumar because of the background of the relationship?
I think that was the problem. That he there is this old enmity that built, I think, because Nitish didn't want him to come and campaign. This then, he sees Nitish as possibly the challenger. He thinks this is the time to finish him. I've won so many seats in the Lok Sabha. If I defeat him now, he's over. He bets the house. Now that he has done that, he has to now look at adversity, convert it into opportunity, and change his stand.
Yes.
See, there are two things. One, let's be fair to the BJP. I'm pretty sure, I don't know whether Amit Shah will resign or not, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he'll be asked more questions within the BJP than the Congress asked Sonia and Rahul Gandhi in May 24.
He will be asked.
I'm pretty sure he asked more questions.
I'm going to be playing what Shatrughan Sinha said in a moment. He's
pretty
given
sure
us a
he'll be
special
asked
interview.
more questions than the Congress asked Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi in May
At least
2014.
10 times more.
I have no.
He will be asked within,
absolutely.
and none of this will come out. It will be within the.
No, I don't know that. I'm even.
Do you expect open voices of dissent? We heard Madhu Srivastava. We've heard Madhu Srivastava, the MLA from Baroda, saying that the party needs to change the way it's run. Do you expect more voices?
Let's be fair to the BJP. It does ask.
So the BJP is a more democratic party than the Congress in that sense.
It has its feelings, but
is that a fair way to put it? The BJP is much more democratic than the Congress when it comes to asking questions of its top leadership.
Oh, I think without a doubt. I think the Congress is this tradition that you don't question people at the top. The contribution of Modi and Amit Shah has been to bring in the Congress culture, to make it much more like the Congress, and that there's much less open dissent, much less questioning of the leadership, which is not a healthy development, and we'll see how it plays out.
That's an interesting way to put it. Chandan Mitra, have Amit Shah and Narendra Modi Congressified the BJP, where questions cannot be asked? Can a Shatrughan Sinha today, because there was talk before the Bihar election that after the election Shatrughan Sinha and RK Singh and the likes will be expelled or certainly given show cause notices. Will you all take tough action? Will you act against those who raised the voice, or are they allowed to speak out?
Board, but no, let me tell you that no party can function if its senior leaders make statements that are detrimental to the party's performance and image, especially at election time. So I think some kind of action, or at least explanation, has to be called for. That is only appropriate.
No,
but,
so Shatrughan Sinha is the fall guy, not the general.
And opinions.
But the view in Patna was...
No, but has Mr. Amit Shah made a statement against his own party?
Okay, so yours...
Shatrughan Sinha has.
So would you say that Shatrughan... Are you saying action should be taken against Shatrughan Sinha?
I'm not saying it's for the leadership to decide.
What do you think?
But I will not be surprised if it is. I think... No, what's the point of asking me what do I think? I do believe, as I told you, that people in responsible positions or elected MPs of the party should be a little more circumspect and should not cause damage to the party at election time.
That's an... but the fact is that you've got a situation now where the BJP at some stage has to decide. Are you going to allow? And there have been a lot of voices, the likes of Shatrughan Sinha, RK Singh. Let's be clear. If this was the Congress party, Shatrughan Sinha by now possibly would have been expelled or sent a show cause notice or suspended. To that extent, or sent to Siberia or wherever he has to be sent. By contrast, the BJP has allowed these voices to prevail. So we keep saying Narendra Modi is authoritarian, Narendra Modi is like, but he allows these voices are surviving.
That's what we may think here. But if you go to the ground, there was a lot of resentment on the ticket distribution done by the BJP. The local newspapers, in fact, dubbed it Bagawat Express. When I was looking and talking to candidates in the first and second phases of the elections, they said part of the reason we may not do well in the first and second because it's too close to the ticket distribution. In Saran, for example, I know that a very responsible minister was pulled up in the last phases of the election by Mr. Amit Shah saying, now when he argued for tickets to be given to his people, that was not done, but towards the end pulled up by the leadership saying, you working against the party. So in a sense, it hasn't been limited just to the two names that you take. A lot of resentment within the rank and file of the party. How many will you expel? There was something.
Ajit, you also were saying a lot of rebellion, a lot of anger there was against the manner in which this election campaign was being run from Delhi. That they wanted greater authority, empowerment to the local leaders.
I would accept that the BJP is a much more democratic organization compared to the Congress in the past. But what is very important is that the Congress, the BJP under Amit Shah and the Prime Minister has slowly become a very centralized party. Arun Shourie made that point brilliantly in an interview when he pointed out that...
Though I've often wondered whether Mr. Shourie would have said the same thing had he become the country's finance minister.
There's a coterie formation.
He would have still said it?
Listen,
he would have still said it?
That's a good question. If he had become the country's finance minister, we have to be open to the possibility that a lot of things that have happened by the fringe elements would not have happened. So therefore, he would not have had the same opportunity to criticize the government.
Let me bring in Sachin.
Unintended and intended consequences.
Javed, before I bring Sachin in, do you believe that the BJP will act against the likes of Shatrughan Sinha in the days ahead? Do you expect that to happen? do you expect there to be some kind of some kind of an attempt to stop all these voices, these dissenting voices who are openly challenging Amit Shah's leadership today?
Possibly because they would want to assert, they would want to give this impression that they're still in control, that Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah are decisive leaders, and before this has a bandwagon effect, nip it in the bud, take care of these people.
No point having decisive leaders when they are on a suicide mission. So I do not think they will act as some people are saying they will act.
Yes. If you expel Shatrughan Sinha if the BJP had won today.
Yeah.
If you expel Shatrughan Sinha now,
So, exactly.
they may well expel him. I think you'll have more voices.
Okay, you'll have more voices. Sachin Pilot, though, before I take a break, answer this question. Inas, do you accept that the BJP is a more democratic party and therefore more inclined to introspect than the Congress party? In the Congress party, no real introspection takes place. And whatever does takes place within the confines of 10 Janpath.
That's right.
I think one should ask the question to the Margdarshak Mandal of the BJP, Joshi ji, Advani ji, Jaswant Singh ji or Shatrughan Sinha. Why don't you ask these people how democratic the BJP is? Ask the MPs of the BJP how wanted they feel and how included they are in the decision making. So to say certain thing is okay, but on the ground the realities are different. And the Congress party, by the way, is in opposition, and we know what we have to do. Now today the introspection should be done by the BJP, who was within 15 months losing ground so quickly. So I think it's wrong to question the Congress at this point. Let's focus on the BJP and their follies.